Hi friends, today I wanted to do a video on foraging. It is May 31st where I am on the northeastern side of the US. It is actually time that you can find stuff growing in the wild that is totally edible and you can get and preserve or just consume. You have to be really careful when you are foraging that you know what you're foraging for, or go with someone that has experience and has picked that particular item and from that location. So I just ask that you be careful when you're doing this, but this is something that's growing in my yard and I've been eating it for years and years and I'm fine with it. But before you go out there and look for something, just make sure you know what you're doing. This is a fruit that I grew up eating in Pakistan, and we used to as kids climb trees and eat these. We had a different variety. There's a lot of varieties of this, but I used to as a child. This is just a fruit that holds like a lot of childhood memories for me. So I wanted to share with you about my mulberry tree, but this is something that is not just in people's backyards. It is everywhere. A long time ago when I had my first son, I was actually craving this. I had such a desire to eat mulberries, but I didn't have them in my yard. So I ended up going to a university nearby, and they just had like a road that was lined with them. And I just stood there and ate mulberry after mulberry and then brought home a whole bag full of them. So they are readily available. You'll see them on the side of the road. You'll see like a dark area on the road where the mulberries are falling and they're staining the roadside. So there's definitely ways of finding them. There's actually a website. It's called Falling Fruit. It might be called fallingfruit.org or .com. I'm not sure. But on that website, people can actually list the location of places where you can forage. So you can go and like people will say, on this street is like, a peach tree or an apple tree or a mulberry tree. And I know that I had looked on there one time before. I didn't really find anything on it. Unfortunately for me, a lot of the stuff that was around me was just dumpster diving, and that was not something I was willing to do. So I'm willing to go to random trees and pick from them, or bushes and stuff, but not necessarily dumpster diving. Not that I'm saying I'm not against it. If that's something that you choose to do, it's just something that I did not do. So nonetheless, it is the time of the year where we're starting to get fruit on a lot of trees. So this is a mulberry tree that I'm standing next to. I'll show you in a second if you're not familiar with it. The other thing that I know will be ready soon, depending on your area, is something called a service berry, or I think it's like the same as the Saskatoon berries from my understanding, and they are ready in June. And we do have a tree not too far from us that has June service berries, or I think they're called June berries, service berries, Saskatoon berries. So they have multiple different names. But anyway, they will be ready in June, and then usually in July. And I'm only giving it for obviously the area that I'm in. Depending on where you are in the US, they're ready at different times. But also in about a month, we will have wild raspberries and blackberries. And if you're driving around and you see white flowers on the side of the road, most likely they're berries, and they will ripen up in about a month. So I used to pick them from all over the place. But anyway, I just wanted to show you these, and if you're not familiar with it, just teach you a little bit about mulberries. This tree actually overhangs my yard, and my dogs just love this whole field. It's just there's just berries dropping all the time. So it's really hard to get them to come inside in the summer because they stand out here and want to eat berries. So I just wanted to show you different stages of them so you get an idea. So when they first start out, they're kind of like not a very dark green, but a green. But if you press on them, it doesn't give it all. It's rock solid. And then they kind of start getting a little bit of color. Let me find one. Here's a good example of a variation of a bunch of colors. You can see the green one right here, and then this one is a pinkish one that is just starting to turn. This one is almost ready, but it is still not ready. So you need to wait until they're basically almost black. So this here is ones that are completely ripe. They are almost black. And at this point, they will fall off the tree quickly. If the wind blows, they fall off the tree. They're really easy to get off. It doesn't take any effort at all. They still have some red inside, as you can see, but it's mostly black, and at this point they would taste good. The darker you allow them to get, the better they taste, but then you of course risk the chance of them also falling off the tree. To get these off the tree, I often put a piece of plastic or a tablecloth on the ground, and then I shake the branches, and the berries will fall off because when they are ripe, they are going to fall off pretty easily. Now, as you notice, they fall off with a stem. I grew up eating these. The stem doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, you can pluck it off. It's not easy to get off, I will tell you. But like I said, it does not bother me. So I just eat it with the stem. These are really good for making jellies. I actually just for the first time saw somebody making juice with it, so I'm gonna try to attempt that because I'm not a huge jelly eater, so I really don't need any jelly. 90% of these I just pop them off the tree and pop them in my mouth. So that's kind of how I eat them, but you certainly can turn them into jam. So this is some way of getting free fruit that you can put away and preserve. And if your family likes jams and jellies, this is like an amazing free thing that's happening right now. Happens every year, and you can go and collect these berries, and I've also have in the past frozen them and just throw them into my smoothies. So I absolutely love mulberries. The ones we grew up eating were much longer, and they were usually always white, but it doesn't matter. I'm actually going to show you a white one because it's a little bit different. So I want to show you how to tell if they're ripe. But these, the darker they are, the riper they are. Now this one, it still would taste good, but if you got one that's completely black, it would probably taste the best. And they plump up a lot from the first, when they're green, they're kind of scrawny and little, but then they plump up as they are getting ripe. So this is one thing that you can forage out of your garden and certainly preserve it for the winter. I am really all about preserving. I feel like there's more food than we can consume right now because the season, you might be growing vegetables, you might have fruit from a tree like this that's totally free that you didn't plant. And so I just like to be able to preserve this stuff for a later time. You never know what the future holds, and I'm not like trying to be one of those people saying the future is terrible. I don't know what the future holds, but I think it's never a bad idea to put away for a future period. I do want to mention, obviously, you want to watch out for any bugs or anything, but that pretty much goes without saying. And another thing, if you are trying to turn this into a jam or jelly, it would be really a good idea to put this on a cookie sheet, pop it in the freezer, and they freeze. And then this little stem, you literally can just pop it off. And then you can throw them in a big pot and start making the jam with it. So that's another easy way of getting this made into a jam, which does really taste good. I think the fruit tastes amazing, but it's, taste is different from person to person. So let me show you the white mulberries that I have growing in my yard and how to tell if they're ripe. One thing I didn't mention is these can stain pretty bad. I don't know if there's an easy way to even get the stains out. So be careful, wear some clothes that you don't mind getting stained because they have a dark color and they will stain your clothes, your hands, anything that they touch. I just want to show you a white mulberry tree. On this branch you can see some of them are really dark and some of them have turned like a lighter shade of white. It actually starts out green, turns to a cream, and then turns to a lighter shade of, like, it's not pure white, obviously, it's like a dirty white, but that's when you know it's ready. And another good way of telling is just to feel the fruit, and you can feel that it's gotten soft. So this is actually my favorite, these white mulberries, but they're not as common. I see more of the dark mulberries around, and I grew up eating more of these white mulberries, but nonetheless, either one works. And you can make jams and jellies out of this too, which I think would look really beautiful. We're all trying to save money right now, so why not use up some of the free food that God has provided for us in nature. Some people are not even aware that these are edible, and I'm sure you'll be able to find mulberries that generally grow wild everywhere. I hope you learned something and enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel.